question for you today. Robert and I were talking about courage earlier. And have you ever had it in your life that you needed courage to step forward maybe for something that you thought it wasn't being handled correctly, or some cause or some effort? And using every ounce of courage you had, did it cause your stomach to flip over and your heart to beat fast?
I think most of us have. And I want to challenge all of us. Hey guys, hey Nancy, hey Brad, is that courage comes in all different forms and packages, and it applies to so many aspects of our life.
You know, courage comes in some things as simple as Robert.
Hey Dean.
Robert totally screwed up Brad's order, which is on the line, and he had to have the courage to say, "Man, I totally screwed up your order, and I had to have my wife fix it."
Yeah, courage is to avoid the. We always tell our grandkids that we don't do blaming, complaining, or justifying. So when we can put those aside and go over here and accept 100% responsibility, where there's no room there for excuses, there's just room for the truth. And so I got on the line with Brad. Brad just had a great transformation on our nutritional power, our superfoods, and I got on there and said, "Hey Brad, hey man, I goofed. I dropped the ball. How can we make it right?" And we're making it right. And
So courage comes in forms like that.
It also comes in the form of joy being open. Hey Brad, is joy being open to even hop on these videos, even when she had her her raccoon bandage.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of funny, because if I've had one person, I've had about 100 say, "Oh my goodness, you got a nose job done." And I have to tell you, I kind of thought my nose was okay before all this skin cancer happened, but there's still just a little bit of bandaging. And, you know, sometimes I wanted to go to the bedroom and just hide, because it wasn't a pretty sight at all, and people look at you so differently. So one of the things I did during this time period, I would notice that people wouldn't look me in the eye. And I'm a really friendly person. I like to speak to people. And so I would make it my goal, as I went into the grocery store and I was all bandaged up, I would just make it my goal to look directly at people and say, "Good morning, how are you?" or something like that. So I really, to be honest, it took a little bit of courage, because I wanted to go get in the bed and pull the cover over my head and wait for it to all get better. So courage comes in lots of different ways.
Lots of different forms. And one of my favorite examples, and I've talked about this on some of a number of videos through the years that we've done. And remember the gentleman, there's one gentleman in history who kind of is a symbol of courage, and his name is Nelson Mandela. And Mahib. And Nelson Mandela, he's known globally for being this courageous, kind of lion-hearted leader. And as I read his biography a while back, and in it, one of the chapters was on courage. And Nelson himself said, one of the guys was interviewing him on his many interviews, and he said, how did you become such a courageous and, you know, heart-centered and just this amazing leader, and you're such, you know, tied to your convictions and the good of the people, the good of the planet. And Nelson laughingly said, "Well, when I started, I was scared. I was nervous. I was shaking in my boots in my first few meetings, especially once I became, you know, the president there." He said, "Man, when I would meet with people, I would put up this facade." Nelson kind of described it as this facade, if you will. In his mind, it was kind of an artificial facade of being courageous, being in his power. And he said, the more I did that and put up this, what I imagined was this facade of being courage and being brave and being convicted, which he was. He said, over time, that seemingly facade began to shrink, and it became closer and closer, and before he knew it, he said, I was that courageous, convicted leader. But he was so strongly tied to his convictions and his course and his purpose that he was willing to step through the doubt and uncertainty and the nervousness and the shaking in his boots to step into that place.
You know, so it's always amazing to me how I feel after I step through that courage point. You know, when I'm so paralyzed with fear, I think there's been different events that Robert and I have attended, and at one event I had to be on top of a telephone pole, harnessed up, scared to death so much that I could barely breathe, and having enough courage to do that. I mean, I look brave and all that, but I'm telling you, I was shaking in my boots. And it was kind of interesting, Robert, as I saw other people were just as scared as I was, but they had the courage to work through that. Some people didn't even attend the event because they heard rumors of what was going to happen.
Well,
they were paralyzed with that fear.
Well, yeah,
they had to have the courage.
And that event in particular was called Beyond Courage, which is very symbolic.
Yeah, which it was beyond without a shadow of a doubt. But it just felt so freeing once I was on top of that telephone pole and I had made it. And I had to shout my affirmations from the top of that pole, and it was so freeing and so enlightening. And so it was worth mustering up every bit of courage I had to get through that.
Yeah, because as Joyce said, it is so liberating when you do step through that. And what's cool in it, that the more you do step through, and the more, remember yesterday we talked about fear. That's why today I wanted to share with you to be about courage, which is the opposite of fear. And at one point we always want to make, talking about courage, as I said earlier, it's never the absence of fear. Courage, we wouldn't even know what courage is without the antithesis, which is the fear, the doubt, and the uncertainty. And my favorite definition, hey Alicia, my favorite definition of courage through the years is you have this fear, doubt, and uncertainty, and over here is courage. And the definition of it is the ability just to step right through that and do it anyway because of the higher reason, the higher goal of what that courage will create in your life or other people's life.
Sometimes it's, I think that courage is so required, at least it was for me when I made a career change. When I left my what I considered to be secure corporate America job and came home to work this business with Robert.
Yeah, Joy was scared to death.
I mean, you talk about scared to death. You know, it's like one weekend I was celebrating, and then that Monday morning I was sitting on the swing on the back porch, crying, saying, what in the world have I done? Have I just lost my mind or what? And it took every bit of courage I had every day to become a student and to learn. And you know, sometimes courage comes with some humbling as well. And I had to admit, you know, I don't know how to do this. So it comes in so many different packages.
So many packages. Hey Jimbo. And part of it, as Joy just said, you know, part of it, we always think of the courageous individual who's fearless, unstoppable, stepping through everything, never uncertain, never doubtful. And the other package, if you will, of what courage looks like is the ability to allow ourselves to be humble, to allow ourselves to put the courage to put down the ego and to be more transparent. You know, hopefully on these videos that we share with you and you know with our own self, it's the ability to be more transparent. The more we're transparent about journeys we've been on, the peaks, the valleys, the mistakes, the shortcomings. Remember a while ago, we made a royal mistake with one of our best customers who's amazing. And but it's also in communication, having the courage to say, I'm sorry. Yesterday, yesterday, I tend to, when I get in a business mode sometimes, I tend to get very matter of fact, bada boom, bada boom.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, Joy never noticed that. So in the middle of that, I forget the situation.
Well, we were discussing something.
Yeah, I took a break. Joy said, how many do you have a minute? I said, sure. But I was still kind of in that bada boom mindset. Yeah. And Joy asked me.
Well, as I went to tell him something, you started to talk over me. Like you were just going to talk over me until I
And I gave her a very matter of fact.
Yeah, and I just took a deep breath and I said, sweetheart, the way you answered me, could we do this another way?
Hey, Jerry.
Could we back up and have this conversation again?
And Joy very candidly said, honey, that made me feel unappreciated, not listened to, etc. And part of the courage was, and I turned around, looked her in the eye, and I reached out for her hands, and I very sincerely said, "Honey, I'm very sorry. How can I explain to you where my mindset was, where I was coming from, and will you accept my apology?"
Yeah.
Let me turn this phone off.
Yeah. So I mean, we all have those things that we have to go through, but the thing is that, for me even, it takes courage to be able to say to Robert, "Can we do this another way?" Because the truth of the matter is, I wanted to give him a bop right up beside the nose.
Yeah,
but that goes over like a balloon. But the sweetness and kindness in me as a wife, if I can come back with genuine, could we revisit this? Could we say this another way? Could we answer this a different way? It's a lot better.
Well, yeah, because that's the other beautiful form of being courageous, is having the courage, again, to let that, sometimes I think, through the years of coach many people, we're not psychologists, we're not any of that. But what we have found with people and relationships is that one of the biggest hindrances or reasons for discord and pulling apart is the pride and ego. And having the courage, and especially in relationships, to put that down and to say, "I'm sincerely sorry. How can we revisit this?" And I call it, we call it a lot with each other in our communication. Could you put the wall down for a moment? Because we tend to stiff and get stiffer and stiffer, and if we don't continually work on softening, meaning going into our heart space and having the courage to do that, which means we're vulnerable, which means we can readily admit mistakes, etc., then our relationship will become more and more challenging to be the loving, kind, caring spouse.
Yeah. So, I think about courage in some other ways also. Sometimes it takes a lot of courage for moms to decide that they want to stay home and take care of their children. The world still thinks for a woman to be something, she has to be some big global something outside of the home working. And the most important work that moms ever do are in the homes. I think about dads that have made sacrifices of courage for their family to go. My son was in Iraq 2 different times. That took a lot of courage to go over there and fight for his country and have to leave his family. So it comes in so many different ways, but it comes in the really small ways also.
It does. Yeah. And also in the business world, we find courage to stand up, to make decisions that are more integrity-based decisions. And so many times in the business world, maybe we allow other influences to pull us out of doing the right thing, the integrity, what's the better for all decision, and have those little small compromises. And over time, those seemingly small compromises, compromising the integrity, core values, can become really big challenges, big problems. We learned that through one of our wonderful seminars. Brian Klemmer, he's passed away now, Klemmer. He does some amazing, his leaders now do some amazing transformational workshops, and it's all centered around compromises and what they cost you versus staying true to your core values and integrity.
Yeah. At one point when Robert had stepped away from another company, we kind of tried out another company for about 6 or 7 weeks, and we went to one of their meetings, and literally Robert and I met each other at the top of a hill crying, and he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, I can't do this. This is not what I'm about. And he said the exact same thing, and it took a lot of courage to walk away from that whole thing and have them say, "I cannot believe you're not doing this." And we just walked away. And so it's a good feeling when we don't compromise what we know to be the right thing and go on. So
yeah, and I guess to end this,
good for thought.
Well, yeah, and also because we do so much mentoring and empowering people in our business, because we have business partners who have big aspirations to really make a major difference on the planet. My summary here, the other big grander aspect of courage is the courage to go after your dreams. And it's funny it's easy to make the decision, say, I'm going to follow this dream and this is my aspiration. The true courage, which over time becomes grit, becomes tenacity, becomes that perseverance, that's where the long-term courage comes in. To have the fortitude to go after your dreams and to continue to go after them when you fall and stumble, and you have some people that break trust, everything, all the process of pursuing those dreams. That's the other beautiful, form of courage. All right, guys. Well, have a courageous life. Remember the small things, big things.
Have a courageous day.
Yeah, and realize when you have doubts, fears, uncertainties, they're right there beside living a courageous life. Yeah. They go hand in hand.
Yeah. So make it a great day.
You deserve it. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.